Now, the British lawmakers have voted in favour of a divisive and a very emotive legislation to allow for assisted dying for the terminally ill in England and Wales. Now, the bill was backed by nearly 330 votes in favour to 275 against in the House of Commons, and both Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves voted in favour of the bill. Now, under the bill, mentally competent terminally ill adults in England and Wales who are assessed by doctors to have 6 months or less left to live would be allowed the right to choose to end their lives with medical help. And those in favour of the bill say that it is about shortening the death of those who are terminally ill and giving them more control. But the opponents believe that vulnerable and ill people will feel that they should end their lives rather than be a burden to their families.
All of us know, and I hosted a phone-in on LBC where people rang in and said, I feel like I have to end my life because I recognise how difficult it is for my family to see me suffering. But the limitations of this bill are that you must have 6 months to live, according to 2 doctors and a judge. So I genuinely believe that this massively reduces the risk of coercion, because we're really saying that people are so desperate to bump off their families that if they were told they had 6 months to live, they would escalate this process, they could do it sooner.
Earlier, the opponents of the bill had gathered outside of the Parliament with posters that read "Kill the bill, not the ill" and "Care not killing" in an effort to persuade the lawmakers to vote against the proposed bill. Now, faith leaders, however, are amongst the fiercest critics. This weekend, around 30 of them signed a joint statement expressing their deep concerns about the proposal. Some claim that the healthcare system is just not prepared for such a significant shift, while others argue that this could cause some of the people to feel forced to take their own lives. Now, since the bill needs to clear a number of additional parliamentary obstacles and won't be presented to MPs again until April, the change is unlikely to happen for 3 years. And following that, it needs to pass the House of Lords and be voted on once again by MPs. And there will be a 2-year implementation period if it is passed into a law. All right, now to give us more perspective in terms of what this legislation is about and how this could play out in Britain, we're joined by Mr. Mike Buckley, who's a senior journalist and a political commentator, and he's joining us on this broadcast. Mr. Buckley, considering as to how controversial this legislation has been, and it has now passed through the House of Commons, but it will be some time before it can be implemented. But tell us as to why a legislation of this nature was even necessary for the British Parliament to pass.
I don't think that it was necessary at all. Obviously the vote itself is one thing, and it is past its second reading in the House of Commons, and there will be a third reading in the future, as you say. This was effectively brought as a private member's bill. So this wasn't a bill put forward by the British government, but it was put forward by a backbench MP who felt that this was something that she wanted to back. And this is a system we have in the UK, where a private member, a backbench member of any party, can put forward a bill that they want to see adopted. And these are normally very, smaller niche issues that are dealt with in this way, and not things that are going to be, have a huge effect on society as a whole. So a lot of people who are opposed to this are shocked that this came through as a private member's bill. And also that one implication of that, one result of that, is that as a result, it's had very little parliamentary time. MPs have had a very short amount of time, just a few hours to discuss this. And there has been no public consultation. So a proper government bill would have months of public consultation before a bill being put to Parliament. So one of the concerns of people who are opposed to this is that there's been no engagement with the public or wider groups in society, particularly thinking about elderly, disabled or sick people or organisations that represent them. But also parliamentarians, MPs themselves have had very little time to discuss it. So I think a lot of people are shocked that this has happened, and shocked that a major change is in the process of being made to British society, really with very little consultation at a public level, well, none, and very little consultation in government as well. So it all feels incredibly rushed, and as a result, just feels like a shock.
I think that's going to be very crucial, public consultation, and also the necessity as to why something like this was even needed. Now, for people not familiar with how the British political system works, this bill has now gone through the House of Commons. It also has to go through the House of Lords. How possible is it that it could probably stumble in the House of Lords, or do bills that are passed by the House of Commons, do they normally just go through the House of Lords? How does it work?
Well, it may well, and indeed, I mean, like the US, most people would understand American politics. So there they have obviously the president, and they have two houses of Congress. So the lower house with congressmen and the Senate as well. So in the UK, we have a prime minister who sits in the equivalent of Congress, so the House of Commons. So they're MPs that people vote for, and then our upper chamber, the senior chamber, is called the House of Lords. People are not elected there; they are appointed.
Right.
So there's 600 of them. There's a lot of people in the House of Lords. So, but the role of the House of Lords is to scrutinise legislation and to improve it. So, but they will vote against the House of Commons. That they will get rid of legislation, of laws, if they think it's bad for the economy or bad for society, or just goes against what that government has said that it will do in the run up to an election. With this, the House of Lords will have free rein to say no if they want to, because it wasn't in the Labour Party manifesto prior to the election. So I would imagine that there will be lots of people in the House of Lords who will think that this was a very, very bad idea and will vote against it, or would at least want much stronger safeguards put in place if this is to go forward. So today is not an end. It is not inevitable that assisted dying will happen in the UK. But of course, today's vote does mean that it is now possible that that will happen.
Interesting. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Mike Buckley, for joining us and getting us that perspective there.
Thank you.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.